My name is Ray Morales, and I'm 38 years old. I do cleanup work for disasters, chemical spills, condemned buildings, places nobody else wants to go. It's dirty work, dangerous work, but it pays the bills. Barely. I've got a kid in college and an ex-wife who needs her alimony checks on time, so I take whatever jobs come my way. That's how I ended up in Ashton Ridge, or what's left of it anyway. They told us it was a terrorist attack. Bioweapon. Chemical warfare. Some extremist group released contaminated materials into the town's water supply, and by the time the government could respond, everyone was dead or dying. 3,500 people. Gone. The whole town leveled to prevent the spread. That's the official story, at least. That's what they told the news, what they told the families, what they told us cleanup workers when we signed our contracts and our non-disclosure agreements. I believed it at first. Why wouldn't I? I've seen enough horror in this job to know that evil exists in the world, that people do terrible things to each other. But standing here in the ruins of Ashton Ridge, breathing recycled air through my respirator, I'm not so sure anymore. Something about this place feels wrong. Not terrorist attack wrong. Something else. Something worse. It's been exactly 1 year since Ashton Ridge was destroyed. The military came in with flamethrowers and explosives, burned everything to ash and rubble. They said it was the only way to contain the contamination. Now my company's been hired to do the final cleanup before they redevelop the land. We're supposed to scrape up soil samples, collect twisted metal, document everything, make sure it's safe for whatever comes next. Shopping malls, probably. Condos people have short memories. Give it 5 years and nobody will remember what happened here. But I'll remember. God help me, after what I found today, I'll never forget. The town is dead. I mean really dead. No birds singing, no insects buzzing, no wind rustling through grass because there is no grass. Just ash. Just dust. Just the skeletal remains of buildings reaching up toward a gray sky. My boots crunch through debris as I walk, and every sound echoes wrong, like the earth itself is hollow underneath me. My coworkers joke about ghosts, say they can hear voices in the ruins at night, but I think they're just trying to cope with how unsettling this place is. Nobody wants to admit they're scared. I'm scared, though. I've been scared since we arrived 3 days ago. There's something about the silence here that gets under your skin. It's too complete, too absolute. Even in other disaster sites I've worked, there's always some sign of life creeping back. Weeds pushing through concrete, rats scavenging something. But Ashton Ridge is sterile, like the earth itself is contaminated, like nothing will ever grow here again. And then there are the sounds. My supervisor says it's just wind tunnels formed in the wreckage, pipes settling, normal stuff. But I hear them at night in my trailer. Scraping, clanging. Sometimes what sounds like whispers echoing up from underground. My coworker Danny says the ghosts of Ashton Ridge are still working the night shift, still going about their routines, and we all laugh, but nobody laughs very hard. Today I was assigned to Sector 7, the residential area on the eastern edge of town, or what used to be the residential area. Now it's just foundations and ash piles, the occasional chimney still standing like a grave marker. I was taking soil samples near what my map said used to be Maple Street when I noticed something odd. One of the houses, or the crater where a house used to be, had a basement that looked more intact than the others. The floor had collapsed inward, but I could see concrete walls still standing, a doorway leading down into darkness. I should have radioed it in, should have waited for my supervisor to clear it. But I was curious, and curiosity is a dangerous thing in this line of work. I climbed down into the crater, using chunks of concrete as handholds, my respirator fogging up from my heavy breathing. The air down here felt different, colder, heavier, like descending into a tomb. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating ash-covered furniture, a collapsed staircase, the remains of family photos on the walls, their faces burned away. I tried not to think about the people who died here, tried not to imagine their last moments. That way lies madness in this job. That's when I saw it. In the corner of the basement, underneath a section of collapsed concrete flooring, there was a metal box. Fireproof by the looks of it, sealed tight with a combination lock. But the lock had been damaged in the blast, bent and twisted. I pulled at it and it came apart in my hands. Inside the box was a book, a diary, leather-bound, handwritten, somehow intact despite everything that had happened here. The cover was dusty but undamaged. Someone had written on it in black marker, the letters still clear. "If anyone ever finds this, tell the world the truth. E.H." My hands were shaking as I opened it. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me already knew what I was going to find. Maybe some part of me knew that everything I'd been told about Ashton Ridge was a lie. The first entry was dated October 15th, exactly 1 year and 2 weeks ago. The handwriting was neat, careful, the writing of someone who took their time, someone who wanted to be understood. It started like this. My name is Eli Harper. I'm 42 years old. I work as a mechanical engineer at the Ashton Ridge Water Treatment Plant. I have a wife, Mara, and 2 kids, Noah, who's 14, and Lily, who just turned 10 last month. I'm writing this because I need to document what's happening here. I need someone to know the truth, even if we don't survive this. Especially if we don't survive this. I sat down on a chunk of concrete and kept reading. The basement was cold and dark around me, but I didn't notice. I was somewhere else now, some other time, seeing Ashton Ridge the way it used to be. Alive. Whole. Not knowing what was coming. Eli Harper's words pulled me in and I couldn't stop reading, even though some part of me wanted to close the diary and throw it back into the rubble and forget I ever found it. But I couldn't. I had to know. I had to understand what really happened here. So I read his first entry, and then the next, and the next. And with each page, the truth became clearer and more horrible. This wasn't terrorism. This was something much worse. This was intentional. This was planned. This was murder, sanctioned and executed by the very people who were supposed to protect us. And as I read Eli Harper's account of the final weeks of Ashton Ridge, as I followed him and his family through their descent into hell, I felt my hands start to shake and my stomach turn sour, because I recognized some of the names he mentioned, some of the government contractors, some of the procedures, and I realized with growing horror that this might not be over, that what happened in Ashton Ridge might happen again, might be happening right now, somewhere else, to people who have no idea what's being done to them. I'm going to share Eli's diary here, word for word, exactly as he wrote it, because he was right. The world needs to know the truth, and it starts with his first entry, written 3 weeks before everything fell apart, written before the sickness, before the dead started walking, before his family was destroyed. This is what Eli Harper wrote. Diary entry, October 15th. I'm not sure why I'm starting this diary. Mara suggested it last week when I told her I was having trouble sleeping. She said writing things down might help me process my stress, help me relax. I don't know if it'll work, but I figure it's worth a try. Work has been weird lately. Not bad exactly, just weird. About 3 weeks ago, these government contractors showed up at the plant, said they were from some federal initiative to improve water quality in rural communities. They installed these massive filtration units, big steel cylinders covered in biohazard warnings and labels I couldn't read. The lead contractor, a guy named Fisher, told us they were prototypes for advanced filtration systems. Said Ashton Ridge should feel honored to be selected for the pilot program. I stopped reading and looked around the dark basement, my heart pounding. The diary continued for dozens more pages. Eli Harper's neat handwriting filling every line, getting messier and more frantic as the entries progressed. I could see dried stains on some of the later pages, dark brown stains that looked like blood. I swallowed hard and kept reading. following Eli Harper into the nightmare that consumed Ashton Ridge, and knowing with absolute certainty that by the time I finished this diary, nothing would ever be the same. I turned to the next entry, dated 3 days after the first. The handwriting was still neat, still controlled, but I could sense unease creeping into Eli's words. The basement around me felt colder as I read, like the temperature was dropping with each page I turned. Diary entry, October 18th. Something's wrong with the water. I noticed it this morning when I ran my diagnostics at the plant. There's this smell, faint but definitely there, metallic, almost chemical, like pennies mixed with something sharper that I can't quite identify. I checked all the standard measurements, pH levels, chlorine content, turbidity, everything. All normal. Perfect, actually. Too perfect, if that makes sense. But the smell is there, and it shouldn't be. I mentioned it to Michael during our lunch break. He's been working at the plant for 20 years, knows the systems better than anyone. He just shrugged and said he hadn't noticed anything unusual. He drank straight from the tap in the break room, right in front of me, like it was no big deal. Maybe I'm being paranoid. Maybe those new filtration units are just releasing trace minerals or something harmless. Fisher and his team haven't been back since they installed the units. They sealed them up tight, told us not to touch them, and left. No follow-up, no maintenance checks, nothing. That's not normal for government contractors. They usually hover around for weeks, testing and monitoring. These guys just vanished. I haven't drunk the tap water in 3 days. I've been bringing bottles from home. Mara thinks I'm being ridiculous, but I can't shake this feeling. Call it intuition, call it paranoia, but something tells me that water isn't safe. Diary entry, October 21st. People are getting sick. Doc Morrison's office has been packed all week. Michael told me that his wife Catherine had to take their granddaughter to see him yesterday because she wouldn't stop having nosebleeds. Just suddenly started gushing blood during breakfast, scared everyone half to death. Doc said it was probably just dry air, told them to use a humidifier. But it's not just her. Half my co-workers have called in sick this week. Vomiting, headaches, tremors. The local news is calling it a flu outbreak, telling people to stay hydrated and rest. Stay hydrated. They're telling people to drink more water. I tried to talk to my supervisor about it. Suggested we should maybe shut down the plant and inspect those filtration units, just to be safe. He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Said the federal government wouldn't install contaminated equipment, that I was being irrational. He told me to take a few days off if I was feeling stressed. I'm not stressed. I'm terrified. Because this morning, 2 of my co-workers died. Tom Brenner and Linda Vasquez. Both collapsed at work within an hour of each other. Seizures, they said. Catastrophic brain hemorrhaging. Tom was 45 and healthy as a horse. Linda did marathons. And now they're dead. And men in hazmat suits came to collect their bodies before their families could even see them. Who does that? Who takes bodies away that fast? I came home early and told Mara everything. She listened, really listened, and I could see the worry in her eyes. She made me promise to stop going to work, said we could manage on savings for a little while. I agreed. But then Lily came home from school with a headache, said she'd drunk a lot of water from the fountain because she'd been thirsty all day. Mara made her drink 3 glasses from the tap at home because she thought Lily was dehydrated. I didn't stop her. God help me, I didn't stop her fast enough. I told Mara afterward that we need to only use bottled water from now on, no tap water at all, not for drinking or cooking or anything. She didn't argue. She saw something in my face that scared her. We're using bottles now, but Lily already drank the water. So did Noah. So did Mara. I'm the only one who hasn't, and I'm watching my family, looking for signs, praying I'm wrong about all of this. I had to stop reading for a moment. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the diary. In the darkness of that basement, I could feel the weight of what was coming, The inevitable horror that Eli Harper had lived through. I wanted to stop reading, wanted to close the diary and climb back up into the daylight and forget I ever found it. But I couldn't. I needed to know what happened next, needed to follow Eli's story to its conclusion. I took a deep breath through my respirator and kept reading. Diary entry, October 23rd. It's spreading faster now. The whole town is sick. You can hear people coughing through their windows at night, see them stumbling to their cars to drive to Dr. Morrison's office. But Doc Morrison died this morning. Heart attack, they said. But I know better. I saw him 2 days ago at the grocery store. He looked gray, exhausted, and his hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold his shopping basket. The pharmacy ran out of fever medication. The hardware store ran out of bottled water. People are starting to panic, and I don't blame them. Mara woke up vomiting last night. She spent 2 hours in the bathroom, and when she finally came out, her face was pale and her eyes were bloodshot. She said it was just the flu, that she'd be fine, but I could see the fear in her expression. She knows something's wrong. We all do. Noah's been complaining about headaches, and Lily keeps getting nosebleeds. I'm making them drink bottled water constantly, hoping it'll help, hoping we can flush whatever's in their systems out before it's too late. But I don't think it works that way. I think whatever was in that water has already done its damage. This evening, right before dinner, every phone in the house started screaming. Not ringing, that horrible emergency alert sound that makes your heart jump into your throat. We all grabbed our phones at the same time, and I already knew what I was going to see before I looked at the screen. I'd been expecting it, dreading it, knowing it was coming. Emergency alert. Ashton Ridge quarantine. Effective immediately. Biological contamination detected. All residents must shelter in place. Do not leave your homes. Await further instructions. Military personnel deploying to secure perimeter. This is not a drill. Lily started crying immediately. Noah went pale and just stared at his phone like he couldn't process what he was reading. Mara looked at me, and I saw everything in her eyes. The fear, the anger, the realization that I'd been right all along and that it was too late now to do anything about it. I heard sirens outside getting louder. I went to the window and pulled back the curtain, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Military trucks rolling down our street, dozens of them, soldiers in full hazmat suits jumping out and setting up barricades at every intersection. A helicopter thundered overhead so low that our windows rattled and picture frames fell off the walls. They were sealing us in, locking down the entire town like we were lab rats in a cage. And then I saw Catherine Michael's wife across the street. She came stumbling out of her house in her nightgown, disoriented, blood streaming from her nose and ears. She took 3 steps into her front yard and collapsed face first onto the grass. The soldiers watched her fall. They didn't move to help. They just stood there behind their barricades, watching through their hazmat suit visors, and I realized they weren't here to save us. They were here to contain us, to make sure whatever was happening in Ashton Ridge didn't spread beyond the town limits. We were already dead to them. We just didn't know it yet. I had to stop reading again. The diary entry continued, but my eyes were blurred with tears. I was sitting in the ruins of what might have been Eli Harper's basement, reading his final testament, and I felt sick. Catherine Michael had collapsed in her yard, and the soldiers had just watched. That detail hit me harder than anything else. The casual cruelty of it, the cold calculation. These weren't rescuers. They were executioners waiting for the sentence to be carried out. I wiped my eyes and forced myself to keep reading. Eli's next entry was dated the following day, and his handwriting was noticeably shakier. Diary entry, October 24th. Morning. I didn't sleep last night. None of us did. We could hear screaming outside, engines rumbling, helicopters circling overhead all through the night. Around 3 in the morning, There was an explosion somewhere on the south side of town. The whole house shook. Noah came into our bedroom crying, and we all huddled together in the dark, listening to the chaos outside. Mara's fever is worse. She's burning up, shaking with chills 1 minute and drenched in sweat the next. I've given her every medicine we have in the house, but nothing's working. Lily's nosebleeds won't stop. I've been through an entire box of tissues, and every time I think it's finally stopped, it starts again. Noah seems okay for now, just the headaches, but I can see him getting weaker. He barely ate anything for breakfast. We're running low on bottled water. I counted the bottles this morning, and we have maybe 3 days left if we ration carefully. After that, I don't know what we'll do. I tried to go outside to check on Catherine across the street, see if she was okay, but there are soldiers at the end of our street now. When I opened the front door, one of them raised his rifle and shouted at me through his hazmat suit, told me to get back inside or he'd shoot. He meant it. I could see it in his posture, hear it in his voice. We're prisoners in our own homes. I saw Michael's truck in his driveway. The windows were covered in condensation. I can't tell if anyone's alive in there. I tried calling his cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. The internet's been cut off. TV stations are all showing the same emergency broadcast message on loop, telling us to remain calm and await further instructions. My phone still works for local calls, but who's left to call? Everyone in this town is either dead or dying. Diary entry, October 24th, evening. Something impossible just happened. Something that can't be real, but I saw it with my own eyes, and Mara saw it too, and Noah saw it, so I know I'm not hallucinating. It was just before sunset. We were in the living room, trying to distract Lily from her nosebleeds by watching a DVD, one of her princess movies. The power's still on, thank God, though I don't know for how long. That's when we heard it. A voice outside, calling from Michael's house across the street. It was Catherine's voice, thin and wet-sounding, calling out, "Henry, Henry, please let me in." Henry is Michael's son. I went to the window and looked out, and what I saw made my stomach drop. Catherine was standing in Michael's front yard. The same Catherine who collapsed there yesterday. The same Catherine who'd been lying face down in the grass, with blood pooling around her head. She was standing now, swaying slightly, her nightgown covered in dirt and dried blood. But it was her movements that were wrong. Jerky, twitching, like a puppet with tangled strings. Her head was tilted at an angle that didn't look natural. And she kept calling for Henry over and over, her voice raspy and strange. "Henry, Henry, please. I'm so cold. Please let me in." The door to Michael's house opened. I wanted to scream, to warn whoever was inside, but my voice wouldn't work. Michael stepped out onto his porch. He looked terrible, gray-skinned and gaunt, like he'd aged 20 years overnight. He stared at Catherine for a long moment, and even from across the street I could see the confusion on his face. "Catherine," he said, "you were dead. I saw you. You were dead." Catherine lurched toward him, that awful jerking motion, her arms reaching out. "I'm so cold, Michael. So cold. Please help me." And then she was on him. I don't know how she moved that fast, but 1 second she was 10 feet away and the next she was on top of him, bearing him down to the porch. He didn't even have time to scream. She was biting him, tearing at his throat with her teeth, and the sounds, God, the sounds were horrible, wet and crunching, and Michael was trying to push her off, but she was stronger than she should have been, stronger than any living person could be. I pulled the curtain closed and turned away, but it was too late. Lily had seen it. She was screaming, and Mara was pulling her away from the window, and Noah was standing there frozen, his face white as paper. I locked the door. Locked every door and window in the house, checked them twice, then checked them again. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the locks. Mara was in the corner of the living room, holding Lily, both of them crying. Noah finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "Dad, that's not possible. Dead people don't come back. They don't." But they do. I saw it. We all saw it. Catherine was dead, and now she's not, and she just killed Michael. And I don't understand what's happening, but I know we're in terrible danger. I know we need to stay inside, stay quiet, and pray that whatever's out there doesn't notice us. Diary entry, October 25th. They're everywhere now, the dead ones. I can see them from the upstairs window, stumbling through the streets, lurching from house to house. They move wrong, all twitchy and jerking, but they're fast when they want to be. And they're hungry. God, they're so hungry. Last night we heard screaming from the Johnsons' house next door. It went on for maybe 10 minutes, then stopped abruptly. This morning I saw 3 of them come out of the Johnsons' front door, their faces covered in blood. One of them was Mr. Johnson himself. I recognized his flannel shirt, his beard, but his eyes were wrong, empty, like there was nothing human left inside. More people are turning. Not everyone who dies comes back, but enough do. And when they come back, they're not themselves anymore. They're something else, something twisted and wrong and hungry. The military hasn't come to help. The helicopters still circle overhead, but they don't land. The soldiers at the barricades just watch, making sure nothing leaves the town. I understand now. This isn't a rescue operation. This is containment. They're going to let us all die, let us all turn into those things, and then they're going to burn Ashton Ridge to the ground and pretend it never existed. We have visitors now. 3 survivors from nearby houses managed to make it here this morning. There's Nora, Henry's aunt, who barely escaped when those things broke into her house. There's Calvin, a teenage kid from down the street whose parents are both dead. And there's Teresa, a nurse from the clinic who saw what happened to the patients there before she ran. We've barricaded ourselves in as best we can. Furniture pushed against the doors, windows covered with plywood that Calvin and I found in the garage. We're rationing our food and water. Teresa says that whatever's causing this, it's in our blood now. Everyone who drank the water has it in their system. It's just a matter of time before we all turn. But some people seem to resist it longer than others. She doesn't know why. Mara's getting worse. The fever won't break, and she started talking to people who aren't there. Seeing things. Last night she kept insisting that her mother was standing in the corner of our bedroom, watching us. Her mother's been dead for 6 years. Lily's nosebleeds have finally stopped, but now she won't stop shaking. She just sits in the corner, hugging her knees, trembling. Noah's trying to be brave, trying to help me reinforce the barricades, but I can see he's terrified. We all are. I can hear them outside right now, scratching at our doors, moaning. Sometimes they call out in voices that sound almost normal, pretending to be neighbors asking for help. But we know better now. We don't open the doors. We don't respond. We just hide and wait and pray for morning. Diary entry, October 28th. We needed supplies. The bottled water ran out yesterday, and we've been drinking boiled rainwater that Calvin collected from the gutters. It tastes like ash and metal, but it's all we have. The canned food is almost gone, too. We were starving, desperate. So this morning, Teresa and I decided to make a run to the grocery store 3 blocks away. Maybe there'd be something left, something the others hadn't found. We left before dawn, when the dead ones seemed slower, less active. Nora stayed behind with the kids, and Calvin kept watch at the upstairs window with a baseball bat. I thought we'd be okay. I thought we could do this quick and quiet and get back before anything went wrong. We made it 2 blocks before we saw them. A group of 5 clustered around something in the middle of the street. They were feeding. I won't write what they were feeding on, but the sounds will haunt me forever. Teresa grabbed my arm and we tried to backtrack, move quietly around them, but one of them heard us. It was Mrs. Kim from the bakery, or what used to be Mrs. Kim. Her face was gray and sunken, her mouth stained dark with blood. She turned her head toward us with that horrible jerking motion, and then she screamed. Not a human scream, something higher, shriller, like a signal. The others stopped feeding and looked up. Then they were running at us. That impossible speed, their movements all wrong but so fast, so terribly fast. We ran. Teresa was faster than me, younger, and she pulled ahead. I heard footsteps behind me getting closer, and I knew I wasn't going to make it. Then Teresa tripped, just caught her foot on a piece of broken concrete, and went down hard. I stopped. God help me, I stopped and turned back for her. She was screaming for me to run, to leave her, but I couldn't. I grabbed her arm and hauled her up, and that's when one of them hit me from the side. It was a man, someone I might have known once, but I couldn't recognize him anymore. He knocked me down and his hands were on my shoulders, his face coming down toward my throat, his teeth bared and bloody. Teresa hit him with something. A piece of rebar she'd grabbed from the ground hit him so hard his skull cracked and he fell sideways. But not before his teeth caught my shoulder, tearing through my jacket and shirt. The pain was instant and electric, and I felt blood running hot down my arm. We made it back to the house somehow. I don't remember much of the run back, just Teresa pulling me along, my vision blurring, my shoulder on fire. When we got inside, Mara saw the blood and started crying. Teresa cleaned the wound as best she could, wrapped it in gauze. But we all knew what it meant. I was bitten. I was infected. It's only a matter of time now before I turn into one of those things. I can already feel it starting. A fever building in my blood. A strange humming under my skin. Teresa says I have maybe 3 days before the change starts. Maybe less. I don't know what happens then. I don't know if I'll still be me, or if I'll become like them, hungry and mindless and wrong. Mara won't leave my side. She's sitting next to me now as I write this, holding my hand, crying quietly. Her own fever has gotten worse. She's barely coherent most of the time, drifting in and out of consciousness. Last night, she woke up screaming that there were spiders crawling under her skin. It took both Noah and me to calm her down. I know what's happening. The infection is taking her, just like it's taking me. We're both dying, just at different speeds. I've moved into the guest room, told the others it's to keep them safe in case I turn while I'm sleeping. Really, I just don't want the kids to see it happen. Don't want them to watch me become a monster. Noah keeps coming to the door, asking if I'm okay. I tell him yes. Tell him I'm fighting it. Tell him I'll be fine. But we both know I'm lying. Diary entry, October 30th. Something terrible happened today. Something I can barely write about, but I have to document it. I have to make sure someone knows what we lost here. Mara was getting worse. The hallucinations were constant now, and she'd started trying to hurt herself, clawing at her arms, saying she needed to get the bugs out. We'd been keeping her in our bedroom, the door locked from the outside, someone always watching. It was the only way to keep her safe, keep everyone else safe. But the fever was burning her alive from the inside, and I could see in her eyes that she was barely there anymore. This morning, Lily was crying outside the bedroom door. She wanted to see her mom, wanted to tell her she loved her. Nora was supposed to be watching her, but Nora had fallen asleep in a chair, exhausted. We're all exhausted. We barely sleep anymore, taking shifts watching for the dead ones outside. Lily found the key. I don't know where she found it. Maybe she'd been watching where we hid it. She unlocked the door and went inside. I was in the guest room when I heard Mara scream. Not a human scream. That same horrible shrieking sound the dead ones make. I ran out of the room, my shoulder wound tearing and bleeding again, and I got to the bedroom just in time to see what was happening. Mara had Lily on the floor. Her hands were around our daughter's throat, squeezing, and Lily's face was turning purple. Mara's eyes were empty, rolled back in her head, and she was making that terrible keening sound. I tackled her, pulled her off Lily, and Mara fought me like a wild animal, biting and clawing. She caught my face with her nails, tearing 4 deep gouges from my eye to my jaw. I managed to throw her back against the wall, and that's when I saw Lily. She wasn't moving. Her throat was crushed, bruised, and swollen. Teresa ran in and tried to help her, tried to do CPR, but it was too late. Our daughter was dead, killed by her own mother, killed by the thing that used to be Mara. Mara lunged at me again, still making that awful sound, and I didn't think. I just reacted. There was a hammer on the dresser, left there from when we'd been boarding up windows. I grabbed it and I swung and I swung and I swung until she stopped moving, until the screaming stopped, until there was nothing left but silence and blood and my wife's body on the floor next to my daughter's body. Noah found me there an hour later, sitting against the wall covered in blood, the hammer still in my hands. He didn't say anything, just sat down next to me and cried. We buried them in the backyard that evening. Teresa said a few words that I can't remember. Calvin helped me dig the graves. Nora held Noah while he sobbed. I didn't cry. I couldn't. Everything inside me feels dead now, hollowed out, like I've turned into something empty. That night, Calvin ran, just took what was left of our food and left while we were all sleeping. I don't blame him. He's a kid. He's terrified. He wanted to survive. I hope he makes it. I hope he finds somewhere safe. Teresa went looking for him the next morning. She didn't come back. It's just me, Noah, and Nora now in this house full of corpses and ghosts, and I can feel the infection spreading through me like fire, and I know I don't have much time left. Diary entry, November 2nd. Nora died 3 days ago. She just stopped breathing in her sleep. One moment she was there, the next she was gone. Maybe it was mercy. Noah and I moved her body to the basement. We couldn't bury her with the others because the dead ones are everywhere outside now. They swarm the streets day and night, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. We can hear them constantly, scratching at our walls, moaning, calling out in voices that sound almost human. Sometimes I hear Mara's voice among them. Sometimes I hear Lily. I know it's not really them. I know it's just my mind breaking apart, the infection eating away at my sanity. But it sounds so real. Noah is all I have left. My boy. My beautiful boy who's trying so hard to be brave, to take care of me even though I'm the one who should be taking care of him. He brings me water and what little food we have left. He checks my wound every day, changing the bandages even though we both know it won't help. The infection has spread up my arm now, dark veins running under my skin like black lightning. The fever comes and goes. Sometimes I'm lucid, sometimes I'm not, sometimes I don't know which is which. Yesterday Noah fell sick. Started with a headache, then vomiting, then the fever. He tried to hide it from me at first, but I could see it in his eyes. The same glassy look Mara had, the same trembling in his hands. He's lying on the couch right now, wrapped in blankets, shaking with chills. He keeps apologizing, saying he's sorry, saying he should have been more careful. But it's not his fault. None of this is his fault. It's mine. I worked at that plant. I helped distribute the poisoned water to every home in this town. I killed them all. I killed my own family. This morning, Noah started coughing blood. I cleaned his face with a damp cloth and told him everything would be okay, but he's 14 years old and he's not stupid. He knows he's dying. He knows we're both dying. Around noon, he asked me to do something for him. Asked me in a small, broken voice that made my heart shatter into 1,000 pieces. He said, "Dad, when it happens, when I start to turn, I need you to stop me. I don't want to become one of those things. I don't want to hurt anyone. Promise me you'll stop me." I promised. God help me. I promised my son that I would kill him. What else could I do? I can't let him turn into one of those creatures. Can't let him become a mindless, hungry thing that wears his face. I'd rather die 1,000 times than see that happen. We're in the basement now. It's safer down here, quieter. I can still hear them upstairs. The dead ones that have broken into the house, stumbling through our rooms, knocking over furniture. But they haven't found the basement yet. Noah is getting worse by the hour. The fever is burning him alive. He keeps drifting in and out of consciousness, mumbling things I can't understand. Sometimes he calls for his mother. Sometimes for Lily. It breaks something in me every time. I'm writing this by flashlight because the power finally went out this morning. We're sitting in the dark, and I can hear Noah's labored breathing next to me, and I know I'm going to have to do the hardest thing I've ever done. I'm going to have to keep my promise. Diary entry, November 3rd, morning. Noah died last night. He stopped breathing around 3 in the morning. I held him until the end, stroking his hair, telling him I loved him, telling him he was brave and strong and the best son anyone could ask for. His last words were, "I love you, Dad." Then he was gone. I sat with his body for 2 hours, waiting to see if he would come back like the others, waiting to see if I would have to keep my promise. But he didn't move. His eyes stayed closed. His chest stayed still. Whatever killed him, whatever was in his blood, it took him completely. He didn't come back as one of those things. Small mercy. I buried him next to his mother and sister. Had to wait until just before dawn when the dead ones are slowest. Dug the grave with my bare hands because I couldn't find the shovel. The dirt is cold and hard and mixed with ash from the bombing I can hear in the distance. The military is burning the outskirts of town, trying to contain this, trying to make sure it doesn't spread beyond Ashton Ridge. I'm alone now. Everyone is gone. My family, my friends, my neighbors, everyone. This house that was once full of life and love is now just a tomb. I can feel the infection taking me. My shoulder wound has turned black, and the dark veins have spread across my chest, up my neck. I catch glimpses of myself in broken mirrors, and I don't recognize what I see. My eyes are bloodshot, my skin is gray. I look like one of them. Maybe I already am one of them. Maybe I'm just too stubborn to admit it. But I'm still me, still thinking, still aware. And I need to understand why this happened. I need to know the truth before I'm gone completely. This morning I left the house for the first time in days. The streets are a nightmare, bodies everywhere, some moving, some not. Burned out buildings, crashed cars. The smell is indescribable. Rot and smoke and something chemical that burns my lungs. I made my way back to the water treatment plant. Had to hide from patrols of those things 3 times, pressing myself into doorways and holding my breath until they passed. The plant is abandoned, windows smashed, doors hanging open. I went inside, back to the control room where those filtration units are still humming, still running on backup power. And that's when I heard them. Voices, real human voices, not the moaning of the dead. I hid behind one of the main tanks and listened. There were 2 men in hazmat suits checking equipment, taking readings from the filtration units. They were talking. I could hear every word. The first man said, "Phase 3, testing confirmed." Neural overstimulation reached critical mass exactly as projected. The second man replied, "Any survivors?" "Negative. They all turned or died. The few who showed resistance were neutralized during cleanup operations." "Good. Retrieve the water samples and neurochemical data. Dismantle the filtration units. HQ wants all evidence removed before the demolition team arrives." "What about the bodies? There must be thousands." "Burn them. Burn everything. The official story is terrorist bioweapon attack. Keep it simple. The media's already running with it." They kept talking, discussing dosages and infection rates and mortality percentages like they were talking about a science experiment. Not people. Not a town of 3,500 human beings with lives and families and dreams. An experiment. That's all we were. Lab rats for some government program testing neurochemical weapons. The water was poisoned deliberately. The filtration units weren't meant to clean the water, they were meant to contaminate it. And my job, my work at the plant, had distributed it to every home, every school, every business in Ashton Ridge. I killed them all. I poisoned my own family. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled backward and knocked over a metal pipe. The sound echoed through the plant. The men in hazmat suits stopped talking. One of them said, "Did you hear that? We're supposed to be alone here." I ran. Didn't look back, just ran through the plant and out into the ruined streets. I don't know if they followed me. Don't care. I made it back to my house, and I'm in the basement now, writing this by flashlight. And my hands are shaking so badly I can barely hold the pen. They did this to us. The government did this. Poisoned us. Watched us die. Watched us turn into monsters. And now they're going to burn the evidence and lie about what happened. They're going to call it terrorism, and the world will believe them, and they'll get away with it. And they'll do it again. Somewhere else. To someone else. More test subjects. More casualties in whatever war they're fighting that we don't even know about. Diary entry, November 4th. I don't have much time left. I can feel it humming under my skin now, that awful vibration that never stops. The infection has spread everywhere. My thoughts keep slipping away from me, dissolving like smoke. I'll be writing something, and then suddenly I can't remember what I was trying to say. Sometimes I lose hours and don't know where they went. The fever is constant now, burning me up from the inside. I look at my hands and they don't feel like mine anymore. The fingers twitch on their own, jerking and spasming. My reflection in the broken bathroom mirror shows something that barely looks human. Gray skin stretched tight over bones. Eyes that have gone yellow and bloodshot. Teeth that seem too sharp. I'm becoming one of them. I can feel the change happening. Feel my humanity slipping away piece by piece. But I'm still here, still aware, still Eli Harper, at least for now. I need to finish this, need to write it all down before I lose the ability to write, before I lose the ability to think. Someone needs to know what really happened here. Someone needs to tell the truth. To whoever finds this diary, you need to understand. Ashton Ridge wasn't destroyed by terrorists. It wasn't a bioweapon attack by some extremist group. It was our own government. They poisoned the water supply with experimental neurochemicals designed to overstimulate the brain until it shuts down and then restarts wrong. They created those things, those reanimated corpses that hunt and feed and never stop. They did it deliberately. They watched it happen. They let us die. We were test subjects in an experiment we never consented to. 3,500 people, men, women, children, families, all of us murdered so they could gather data on their weapon. And when it was over, when everyone was dead or turned, they burned the evidence and blamed it on terrorists. They're probably already planning the next test, the next town, the next group of unsuspecting people who'll drink poisoned water and never know what's killing them until it's too late. You have to stop them. You have to tell everyone what they did here. Don't let them do this again. Don't let my family's deaths be meaningless. Don't let Ashton Ridge be forgotten. The water. Don't drink the water. Don't trust them when they say it's safe. Don't trust the government contractors who install new equipment and tell you not to ask questions. Don't trust the officials who say everything is fine even when people are dying. Question everything. Fight back. Survive. I'm sorry I couldn't do more. I'm sorry I couldn't save my family. Couldn't save my town. I'm sorry I helped distribute the poison that killed them all. That guilt will follow me into whatever comes next. Whatever I become. I can hear them upstairs now. More of them. Breaking through the barricades. They know I'm down here. Maybe they can smell me. Maybe the infection in my blood calls to them. I don't know. It doesn't matter anymore. My hand is cramping. The pen keeps slipping from my fingers. I'm losing control. Losing myself. When I stop writing, that's when I stop being me. That's when Eli Harper dies and something else takes his place. To my family, if somehow you can hear me wherever you are, I love you. I'm so sorry. I failed you. I should have protected you. I should have known something was wrong sooner. I should have gotten us out. I love you. I love you. I love you. The humming is so loud now. It's all I can hear. My thoughts are fracturing, breaking apart. I can't hold on much longer. To whoever finds this, tell the world the truth. They'll say it was terrorists. Don't believe them. We were the test. They'll do it again. Don't drink the diary entry ended there, the final letters trailing off into an illegible smear. I sat in the darkness of that basement, the diary open in my trembling hands, and I felt something break inside me. The last page was stained with dried blood, brown and flaking. Eli Harper's blood. His final words, written as he lost himself to the infection, as he became something other than human. I closed the diary carefully, like it was something precious and fragile. And I looked around the basement. This was where he'd hidden it, sealed it in that fireproof box, his last act as a thinking, feeling person. His testament, his truth. The ruins of Ashton Ridge suddenly felt different around me. Not just a disaster site, a mass grave, a crime scene. 3,500 people murdered by their own government, and I was standing in the evidence of it. My radio crackled to life, making me jump. My supervisor's voice came through, distorted by static. Ray, you there? Take your lunch break. There's a water truck at base camp. Stay hydrated, it's hot out there, and don't drink from any of the old pipes, they're still flushing the lines. I stared at the radio. My mouth went dry. Flushing the lines. The same words Eli had overheard those men say a year ago. The same procedures. I looked down at my hands. In the dim light of my flashlight, I could see small blisters forming along my forearms, following the lines of my veins. I'd been here 3 days, drinking water from the truck, eating in the mess tent, breathing the air. How long had it been contaminated? How long had I been exposed? The pieces fell into place with horrible clarity. The sealed-off sections we weren't allowed to enter. The blood tests they'd required before we started work said it was just standard procedure. The non-disclosure agreements that threatened legal action if we talked about anything we saw here. The way my supervisor kept telling us everything was safe, even though nothing grew here, even though the silence was unnatural. This wasn't cleanup. This was Phase 4. We were the next test subjects. A soft sound echoed through the basement. Footsteps above me, slow and shuffling. Then more footsteps. Then scratching at the basement door. I grabbed the diary and shoved it inside my jacket. My hands were shaking worse now, the blisters spreading up to my elbows. The fever was starting. I could feel it, that same burning Eli had described, that humming under my skin. The basement door creaked open. A figure appeared at the top of the stairs, silhouetted against the gray light. It was Danny, my co-worker, the one who joked about ghosts working the night shift. But Danny was moving wrong. That jerking, twitching motion. His head tilted at an unnatural angle. His eyes were empty and yellow. "Ray," he said, and his voice was wet and wrong. "Come upstairs. The supervisor wants to see you. We have new equipment to install. New filtration units." He took a step down the stairs, then another. I backed away, my heart hammering, looking for another exit. But there was none. Just concrete walls and that single stairway where Danny was descending toward me, moving with that horrible twitching gait, his mouth opening to reveal teeth that seemed too sharp. I thought about Eli Harper and his family, about Mara and Lily and Noah, about 3,500 people who'd trusted their government and died for it. I thought about the diary in my jacket, the truth that needed to be told, and I thought about the water truck at base camp and all my co-workers drinking from it, and how many of them were already infected, already changing, How long until they sent us home? How long until we spread it to our families, our communities, our cities? This wasn't containment, this was expansion. They were weaponizing us. I grabbed my flashlight and swung it at Danny's head as he reached the bottom of the stairs. The impact made a wet, cracking sound and he stumbled backward, but he didn't fall. Just turned those empty eyes toward me and smiled with too many teeth. I ran, pushed past him, up the stairs, into the ruined house and out into the gray daylight. The other workers were scattered across the site, shambling between the rubble piles. Some of them saw me and started moving in my direction with that same jerking motion. I ran toward the perimeter fence, toward the military checkpoint, and I could see the soldiers watching me through their hazmat suit visors. I reached the fence and grabbed it, shouting for help. One of the soldiers raised his rifle and pointed it at me. Not at the infected workers behind me. At me. "Step away from the fence," he said, his voice muffled by his mask. "Return to the work site. This is your only warning." I looked down at my arms. The blisters had burst, dark fluid leaking from them, and I could see black veins spreading under my skin like cracks in glass. I was infected. I was contaminated. I was evidence they needed to destroy. The soldier's finger tightened on the trigger. Behind me, I could hear the shuffling footsteps of Danny and the others getting closer. I was trapped, infected, dying. But I still had the diary. I pulled it from my jacket and held it up. "I know what you did," I screamed at the soldiers. "I know about the experiment. I know about the neurochemicals. I have proof." The soldier lowered his rifle slightly, spoke into his radio. "We have a contaminated subject with classified documentation, requesting immediate extraction and containment." More soldiers appeared. They surrounded me, rifles pointed, hazmat suits gleaming. One of them stepped forward and held out a gloved hand. "Give us the diary. Come quietly and we'll get you medical treatment." I looked at that outstretched hand, looked at the rifles, looked at the infected workers behind me getting closer. I thought about Eli Harper's last words. Tell the world the truth. I threw the diary as hard as I could, away from the soldiers, away from the fence, toward the highway beyond the checkpoint. It landed in the dirt 30 feet away, its leather cover clearly visible. The soldiers turned to retrieve it, and I ran in the opposite direction, back into the ruins, drawing them away from the diary, giving it a chance to be found by someone else, someone who could get it out, someone who could tell the truth. Gunfire erupted behind me. I felt something punch into my back, hot and sharp, and I stumbled and fell. More shots. Pain exploding through my chest, my legs. I crawled behind a collapsed wall and pressed my hand to the wounds, but I knew it was over. The infection was in my blood. The bullets were in my body. I was dying. But as I lay there in the ash and rubble of Ashton Ridge, I saw something that made me smile. A civilian truck had stopped on the highway beyond the checkpoint. Someone was getting out, walking toward the diary lying in the dirt. A woman with a camera around her neck. A reporter, maybe, or just a curious passerby. She picked up the diary, opened it, started reading. The soldiers saw her too late. By the time they reached her, she was already running back to her truck, the diary clutched to her chest. She drove away before they could stop her. Eli Harper's truth was free. The world would know. As my vision darkened and the fever burned through my brain and I felt myself slipping away, I thought about water, clear and cold and deadly. I thought about all the towns I'd never visit, all the people I'd never warn, and I thought about that reporter racing away with the diary, and I prayed she'd have the courage to tell everyone what she'd read. My last thought, before the darkness took me completely, was a warning that echoed Eli Harper's final words. Don't drink the water. Don't ever drink the water.